Good morning, everybody. They didn't expect that. Yeah, looks like we're live over there.
Hello.
Hello. You are live. Again, good morning, everyone. I'm Thomas Blair.
I am Mark Halash.
And you know us well because we are in here the third Tuesday of every month, showing you some new stuff that we've been working on for whatever the next thing is, because there's always the next thing. And, yeah, and then we're going to answer some questions. You guys can answer questions, or ask questions as we are showing you stuff. Clearly, right off the bat, in the background there, you should see some new stuff. And maybe Durenthal, who is asking questions already, can start telling us what he sees that's different. Because right off the bat, there is something different. And 12 a.m. Well, thank you for showing up at 12 a.m.
12 a.m. Wow. All right.
Which means
Dedication.
Wow, that's
like midnight.
It's 13 hours ahead of us.
Or could be 11 hours.
Where is that? Is that Australia?
No, we're always behind.
Are we behind?
Probably. I guess other side of the world, like almost exactly.
Yep. Anthorage knows right off the bat. Combat log.
New Zealand, maybe.
Is a new thing. Yeah, it could be New Zealand. Could be.
Or maybe Old Zealand.
There's big ass text over a third of your screen. Yes, that is because I can't.
We only have one monitor.
I got one monitor. Gibson hasn't given us two yet.
You can only afford one monitor.
It only took us like 4 years to get to a point where I can just plug in my laptop and shit just kind of works normally. And now we want more. I know.
And Jack's not here today.
And Jack's not here, so of course
everything is just.
Yes,
you know.
A good chunk of the team is in Germany right now. They are getting ready at Gamescom to show Gamescom stuff. Yeah, do the whole Gamescom, be on the show floor, have a bunch of fun in Germany, eat some German food, that kind of thing. But today, I'm going to show you some new stuff. And the new stuff, clearly you see at the top of the screen there, we've got a point counter up there for the 3 teams. Hey, and the 3 teams you all know very well. That's the point counter. That's the early UI that's going in for the 5.8 win condition tracker, as Durenthal wanted to know about. It is going in, and people are working on it. Yeah, a lot of the stuff you're going to see today, super early because we've kind of just started working on some of the Meteor 5.8 features. And
beginning to show up.
Things begin to show up, and it's usually in a half broken state, or it's because it's got not a lot of time built on it. Yeah. It's like when we showed Hunger Crystals 3 months ago, I want to say, and look at them.
Things of beauty.
I think we showed it. It was like a blue rock, and it didn't work. Anyways, the next thing we're going to talk about is, yes, you see the wind stuff going in. And you see down below a thing called
Combat Log.
A Combat Log, yes. So we are starting very simply with our Combat Log in the beginning because we have lots of things to build, and we just kind of at least want to get you guys
very basic information.
Very basic information. So right now we're just starting with damage that you deal and damage that you take. And Akshay, as he's working on that, we are going to continue to add there. We're going to add status effects and all those other things. It's just that stuff takes time, and we wanted to get the minimum in here, which, believe it or not, will help Mark and me when we're testing things, going like, why the hell is this thing doing so much damage? And it shows us that we needed to go back and add names to all of the things because, for example, none of our NPC powers had names on them, so you had no clue what was hitting you.
But they do now.
They do now. So here, you can see I do a Ruby Slash, an Emerald Slash, and a Bloodstone Spin. I can guarantee you that nobody knew that our basic attacks had names. And in this case, who wants points for telling me what those things are? Ruby, Emerald, and Bloodstone. First one in chat gets the win. I'm waiting. Someone has to know what those are based off of. Come on. Your left mouse button. There you go. Spall 9999 wins points to Hufflepuff. Those are, in fact, our Kickstarter packages. And the Knight was, in fact, our very first character that we built years ago. So his left-click attack names were based off of Kickstarter packages. So you are going to see all kinds of things. Hey, Shield Bash. Ruby Slash. Shield Swipe, Shield Stun. Yes, we have actually named all these things. And you can see the type of damage that it's doing and the amount. Like I said, we're just starting getting this thing working, but this is going to help us a lot, especially when we get tickets like, what's a good example? I got one punched by a champion for 6K.
I mean, those things happen.
When actually what it was falling damage and not...
You could actually look back and be like, oh, you know what? It was falling damage that killed me and not...
Right. And not whatever that thing is. But, again, we are at the point now we've started working on features, gameplay features, more than anything. Not so much tech stuff going on. Lots of gameplay stuff, which is great because it means that a lot of the tech stuff has gotten to the point where we don't want to poke it anymore. Can we export these logs to a file? Yes, that's one of the things that Akshay is working on, is the ability to turn on a... you can turn on your logger, because basically we don't want to fill up your hard drive unless you want to have that information. This is the same thing that we did on DC. You go to a spot and you say turn on the logger, and it logs that to a text file, and then you can go back there and parse it and do whatever you want with it. That is a... will it highlight a crit? It should, in fact... One of the things that I told Akshay to do last week was... Let's hope that... Boom. That should say crit, because it's a guaranteed crit.
But it does not.
Hold on, let me see. Let me just kind of spam until I see...
You may have to spam a while with your...
Yeah, I may not have...
5% crit chance.
I may not have a lot of crit yet. However, that was one of the things that I very clearly asked for last week was, hey, make sure it says you critically hit in the combat log when you actually critically hit, because otherwise it's...
Yeah, do the...
Yeah, that was a crit. It looks like we need to store...
So what you're saying is it will be.
What we need to do is storm Akshay's office and be like, yo, it didn't say crit. Oh, the reason the numbers are low is because I'm using our default testing gear. That should have been an auto crit, Anthrage. In fact, if you look at... Yeah. This stuff I'm using is our... My attack power is terrible. I have no...
It could not be any worse.
This is kind of the guy that we just test stuff with to make sure it works. Not if it's properly balanced. But you'll notice that the fly text here... it has the red flash behind it, and it goes big, which is our hey, this was a crit. However, it doesn't show up there. Shield Slam is pretty cool, but I'm not going to tell you why yet. Yes. Okay, so combat log. So that is coming in 5.8. The early pieces of it, which is great. You'll have damage. I don't have any NPCs out here.
You could spawn some.
But you'll see it's in red when it's incoming. You will be able to log it to an output file.
You could spawn a bear.
You want to spawn the bear? You can spawn.
I mean, if it...
Mark has been working on something really cool. Yes.
The latest monstrosity from the bestiary.
Yes.
And these guys have no effects, and their animations may not play correctly, but they are ridiculously impressive and terrifyingly...
Good God, they look pretty horrific.
Yeah, these are the night version. The day version is fuzzy and cute. Not really, but they're less sharp. They look less like they will cut you if they touch you. But you could poke them. They should assist. Of course, you're going to get 2 of them, right? And they're just gonna. Oh my God! Oh,
Ah!
he's eating you!
Oh,
He's eating you alive!
Oh my God!
He is literally eating you alive, Blair. What are you gonna do about it? What you gonna do about it? Oh, you make him sit down. He looks too cute when he's sitting down like that. Come on.
Yeah, F you, Bear. He was a rank 1 bear.
Pretty easy. Pretty easy, Bear.
I definitely,
as you can see.
I definitely like. Yeah, so now you see in the combat log, you can see he hit me with Bear Swipe for 107 slashing damage. What else did he do? Bear Swipe, Bear Swipe.
A bunch of times, and I believe he mauled you.
He mauled me. Yep.
He mauled you and mauled you and mauled you and mauled you and mauled you.
What was the what was the initial charge? Did that not have any damage on it? The knockdown?
Should have had damage.
Because I don't see it in the combat log.
I don't know. It was a good. I don't know. Go fight him at range some more and see what. Maybe that one is not working. Because they will. I'm trying to think. What you did the brown one, right? Brown ones aren't very chargy or jumpy.
This is the. I think this is the black one.
You can negative damage yourself to heal yourself.
Yeah, I just didn't want to pull up a command window again and give them more commands.
You know what? Look at the 3rd damage you took. Isn't
oh yeah.
At making shit happen.
Making shit happen. Making sure damage happens.
That's not hard.
And he's rank 1. Yes.
That's an easy one.
Please, can I throw these at people as a druid?
Yes. Yes, you can.
That would be great. We're gonna launch nightmare bears at you.
Take that. Oh, look at that. He's shooting.
Look at that.
Yes, that's right.
He's hitting me with Icy Blast. Is that how Icy Blast is spelled?
Yes, it is. Oh, now he's eating you.
Ah.
You should probably retaliate with E, Blair.
Get the hell up.
There you go.
Damn it. He is...
He's mauling. He's mauling because he's a bear, and that's what bears do, is they maul you. Or they flatten you. The other ones flatten. These guys maul.
Okay, so that is the night version of our new bear. I'm guessing that the harvesting stuff hasn't been hooked up yet?
No, it all works.
Oh, great.
Harvest them and...
Excellent.
Get, I mean, they all good, man. That's why I'm working on traits. Because I finished this stuff. It's ready for effects and
great
fixes to the things that are not working.
Great. Okay, so, let us see. Any questions? This is a rank 1 one, so
rank 1, yes.
He does not actually hit super hard, but and I'm in basic equipment, but this is our testing area, and I didn't want to. That's not what this stream is about. This stream is about showing you guys the new stuff. Okay, the Ranger was designed so you don't have to play any other class in the game. I don't know about that. I'm pretty sure that was
healing with that Ranger.
Yeah, good luck. Why is Ranger suppressed now instant? Why do they even have an expose punish on their hardest hitting skill on a low cooldown?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Yeah, I know why it suppresses instant because I removed the projectile component from it because it was getting caught in ceilings and things like that. And that was a side effect of removing that thing. What's my favorite thing coming in 5.8? I don't know. There's a lot of fun things coming in at 5.8. So, what have we shown? We've shown the meter, the combat log, the bear. Now I'm going to show you one of the things about building an MMO is it's also not all of the big stuff. It's 8,000 little things, right? It's the mountain of stuff that you have to build. And things that you have to build, for example, are tooltip stuff. And it's not sexy, it's not super cool, but it is
important.
It's super important, but when it's not working, you definitely notice it. So we added in weapon weight as our stat to tell how heavy a weapon is. You increase the damage, it increases the weight. So you have to make a sacrifice, and you can play with weapon finesse if you want to lower that value. One of the irritating things about it, though, was when you got a better weapon, meaning the weapon weight was lighter, your little tooltip delta said that it was in red. And it made it look like it was actually worse for you when it was actually better for you. So we now have a way to flag a stat such that we can show that it is in fact a positive for you even though the value is decreasing. And that's just one of those little things, but it's one of those kind of annoyances that you look at. And it's clearly a messaging thing, so it's important for people to understand that, oh, hey, lower weapon weights are better than higher weapon weights. And tons of little things like that are going to come online. We can also now multiply those values times a value, so we can make our percents actually look like percents in the weird cases where we don't want to show you 0.01 and that's actually 1%. So weapon weight, if you remember, or what you guys see on live right now, is probably that guy shows up as 0.15 there on the one-handed mace, and the one-handed longsword that I would have here would show up as 0.05. So we can now multiply it, and it's lots of little things like that that you're like, oh man, that just works.
For all the 0.001s, which are actually 0.00095 something something.
Correct. So we will be able to actually make those sensical. We're also getting the round function as part of this. So at the item level, we'll be able to show you that the attack power is actually rounded to the nearest point rather than showing you 4 significant digits, which it's important in crafting. So at the crafting stage on the components, we are going to show you those 4 extra decimal points.
Because they matter, right?
Because they matter.
Expanded, multiplied by huge numbers.
Correct. But by the time that you get it on the end item, you really don't want to see that, and it clutters up the item and just makes it look, in my opinion, not so good. So we're going to get the round function. We're going to get the ability to put a symbol after a number, so we can say...
Put emojis!
No. 1.67 poop. Or corn. We'll put corn on the car. Yeah, just emojis. In fact, in this case, we're actually going to get the ability to put a percent there. So lots of those little things. It's just, you got to get to them. I mean, that's one of the challenges of making a big game. Changes in crafting in 5.8. I will show you something in crafting here next. Is that a cat paw in the equipment tab? Man, these people are
sharp. They look
sharp. They're looking. There is, in fact, a cat paw in the area over here.
That is where you would equip your cat.
That is where the pet is going. Yes, that is also underway as part of 5.8's work. We'll see if engineering can get there, but there is an item that gets equipped there, and it's supposed to summon a pack pig right now that follows you.
Where else are you going to equip your night bear if you're a druid?
Yeah. Yes. That is, in fact, farming is not a thing yet. We are still doing all kinds of gameplay stuff. Don't re-enable the dupe bug from poop emojis. Can we ride these pets? We have to get the pets following you and doing what pets do first, before you can ride them, before they'll do combat, before you can load up their inventory with stuff. But you clearly see the beginnings of that stuff going, because that's where it's going to go. What else we got? Can the pet go pick up dubers? Maybe. There's definitely somebody. I definitely saw some guild work in progress, Duranthal. I don't know that it's going to arrive as part of 5.8 though. I noticed that the Druid Death Orb mechanic has changed in 5.7, and though it wasn't mentioned, it seems entirely useless. Could you tell if it's working as intended? No, there's problems with projectiles right now. In fact, all orbs were having problems. Yeah. And the Death Orb uses a projectile, and the fact that it's not exploding tells me that it's either going under the world, going too high in the sky, something weird where that projectile really is, and it's not exploding when people touch it. So that's clearly a bug. The projectiles vex me
to no end.
To no end. Is the rubber band on movement abilities such as Champ Leap and certain dodge rolls? Yes. Yes. In fact, I saw an engineering meeting as I was walking over here where they were talking about those things. Yeah, it's not detonating on content. Somebody is not breaching that. As far as the game is concerned, somebody is not hitting that projectile to cause it to explode, which is why when it times out, it goes ahead and blows itself up. it counts. So something is wrong with that projectile, and in fact, the bear projectile and meteor purge are also not working properly.
Well, the ranger traps.
The ranger traps as well. Something is wrong with
Druid
projectiles.
orbs.
Yeah, engineering needs to look at projectiles and see why they're not exploding. I think I put a ticket in 2 weeks ago on that. Victory points. Yeah, you see them at the top of the screen there. I'm just in our testing environment, so they're not doing anything.
Balance, order, and chouse.
Any lift on crafting past gray to white planned, like stat lift from white to green or green to blue. There's currently a stat lift on green. Like, do you mean us increasing it, or blues clearly have a higher percentage, if I'm not mistaken, at the quality thing, at the quality calculation. It should be giving you a lift. I haven't crafted in 2 weeks, so what is the status? I feel like was this a production meeting here? Strather's like, I need to check these off the list. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Tinnis that's asking the questions. Strathor, there should be a percent multiplier that happens just from crafting a blue versus a green. I know that's a piece of data that's in there.
Just a raw multiplier.
It's just it's like a
5% at the lowest end and goes up to, I think, what,
correct
5 or something like that for legendary.
Yeah,
it's pretty big.
When you say lift, I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to say. I don't want to confuse any of the verbiage that you guys are using, because lift is not something that we use. What contributes to points in 5.8? I don't have the values in front of me, Duranthal, but keeps are worth the most, forts are worth the second most, and all of the outposts are worth something, but they're not as much as clearly as a fort. You need to have multiple outposts to be equal to a fort. So, in order of difficulty, they are worth more. It is broken in 5.3 and has not worked since. Only gray to white has a lift. Okay. That's interesting.
I mean, yeah.
5.3 sounds like when we kind of collapse the differences between, when we squish down between legendary and just so legendary wasn't so far off the scale.
Right. I mean, as far as last I looked at it, when I did the crushing so many years ago, it was working.
Okay. Vessel additives back to loot
It's easy to
tables.
check. We'll just check it when we get back to our desks.
Yeah.
Sure
Vessel additives are going to go on the humanoids, not the monsters. And humanoids are not on the table for 5.8. We're getting the Auroch finished in 5.8 and maybe the bear. Just gives capture point. No, duration held. The longer you have those things, the more there's a heartbeat ticking, and maintaining them keeps the points flowing. Frostweaver news or fixes for Fessor. No Frostweaver news and fixes for Fessor.
What's wrong?
Yes, we need more news on fixes for Fessor.
That is.
It's funny how we shifted from Confessor Fall to Ranger Fall. Now everyone's like, they're crap, and we only play whatever is the newest _ fall. Forts and camps cannot give points over time because of nighttime capping. Only keeps should give points over time because of the agreed siege window whenever you add that. No, well, the agreed siege window is not part of 5.8. We've got something else planned for that. I'm not going to reveal that yet. And but no, there is a heartbeat ticking, and points are accrued as the heartbeat ticks. Exposed mechanic allowing multiple back-to-back knockdowns. Feels cheesy and unfun to play against. It's supposed to be affected by DRs because it isn't currently.
Right. You can, there's ways to deal with exposed, right? There's ways to remove it, and you can also just basically realize you're fighting somebody who can counter, basically who's using exposed mechanics. That's their way of basically taking you out in a one-on-one situation. And so you got to kind of realize how they, how it works, and like don't attack when basically, their anti, basically their exposed punish is not on cooldown, right? You got to bait it out, right? You can also use your ultimate to remove it, and there's also secondary disciplines. If they're causing real problems, you can get somebody to basically be your anti-exposed person. So it's not a one-on-one game, right? Like we're assuming you're gonna have teams. So
there is a system behind all of that. It feels like we should probably message it. We should spend some UI time messaging a little better. The thing I'm curious about is Confessor got nerf hammered. I know we haven't changed Confessor powers in.
I mean, is it
6 months?
Is it their tornadoes, right? I mean, because tornadoes may be busted because we know projectiles are busted. So is it the tornadoes?
Yeah.
Or what specifically? If
yeah, that would be great.
We can look at it, because I mean aside from testing ourselves, we read the forums after every test too to pick up any, and I haven't heard anything about Confessor being broken. So
it's not
really
don't
curious.
Fight Durenthal. It's know when to fight. It's basically, imagine your DPS is like a gas pedal, and you just can't keep it floored 100% of the time. If you see somebody has a Thorns effect or a Retribution aura, the smart person is going to be like, I'm just going to back off for a second, right? Or I'm going to use that lull to cast Oath or something that gives me a self buff or whatever, right? It's basically not Rock'em Sock'em Robots, where you literally just get in there and you just go punch,
like,
punch, 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 right? You have to. There's a little bit of like, hey, this is going to be bad. I'm not going to do it. Mana consumption and DPS. So their DPS has not changed, their range hasn't changed, and their mana consumption hasn't changed.
Yeah, I mean, we honestly haven't touched anything.
Mana range escapes on Fesser. Explain that one a little more. But what's interesting is we haven't touched. I wonder if something else getting better has made it seem like that is not as good, because we really haven't. They run out of mana very fast. So that is the point of the Confessors. That's why they have Fervor. The Confessor is supposed to be mana dump, fervor, mana dump, fervor, mana dump, fervor. Now, Fervor isn't giving enough mana back, then that is an issue. But that class is basically designed to just go in. I mean, if you guys remember the old Wombo combo, which was get your pulsing aura up, zip in, and flamethrower people to death, and then just burn what you have, get out in Fervor. That's what we designed. I mean, that's the whole point of Zealot Rush, which is now the Netheri right click, but that was built around that thing. Basically, so it sounds more like it's a range issue with the removal of the range training nodes. Yeah, everyone suffers from everyone has to deal with the weapon weight and efficiency thing. They can take it's not weapon finesse. It's the one that we give them by default that makes their powers 10% cheaper. But it's good if they're running out of mana, because that's what we always intended them to do. People need to run out of resource, otherwise there's no point in having resource. But we'll look at those things. Now, I'm going to go into the last thing that I was going to show you guys this morning, which was some of the new toys that we've been playing with since Charlie's given us some new features, and we had some kind of chocolate laying around. So some new peanut butter and some chocolate mixed together and made some fun new things. So as part of, I've been making some crafting disciplines on the side as we start to work on some crafting stuff. And unfortunately, that guy doesn't get, does that tooltip get bigger? Can you zoom in on the tooltip, Gibson? Can you give us a zoom, my friend? Zoom in on the leather scroll case. Like that area, can you make that?
Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ah, Gibson.
We're on a tight ship here. What are we gonna do without Jack?
Did you zoom in?
Yeah, why don't you zoom in, Blair? Huh?
I'll use the Unity zoom in.
Unity? Oh god, yeah. Unity,
Let me see if I can.
I mean, you can, and just make that just like, hey, it's Crowfall, the
Yeah, that does not.
the pixel art.
Yes, those are my options. Is scale it.
Yeah.
That's all it'll do here.
Is that all it'll do there? Okay. Well, one of you guys out there in Crowfall Land can take a picture, and if you want to read the lore text that Mark and I spent some time working on to make it funny and amusing, but you'll notice that this minor discipline grants you what's called a scroll case. Okay, Tennis says they can read it. Okay, so you go over and you equip your scroll case, your leather scroll case, and you see I now have a scroll
case.
A scroll slot. So I'm going to go over to... Hey Gibson, can you cover my little area really quick? I just need it for like 5 seconds, because I totally do not have what is known in Crowfall as a faction.
Where?
Just give me the dogged on the upper left.
We have dogget.
We have
Release the doggett.
Go ahead. I'm done. It was really quick. Thank you. Okay, so you'll notice this is our testing crafting area. And I'll go to the blacksmithing table. And I now have, under blacksmithing, I have 3 categories: fuel, intermediate weapons, and weapon components. Okay. If you look at this piece of wood in my inventory, you'll notice that it has a name of Arcane Scroll, Arcane One-Handed Swords. So it also says, hey, recipes granted while equipped, the Arcane One-Handed Longsword. There's going to be more swords in there because obviously I want to give you a couple swords recipes when you equip this guy. And I go ahead now and I can equip it, and it goes into my scroll slot. And when I go up to the blacksmithing table, you'll notice that I now have, under blacksmithing, a category called Arcane Weapons. And I click that, and you now see that I had the recipe for the one-handed arcane longsword, which is totally cool because for design, this is what design likes to do, is we like to take all of the stuff that we have built and think of fun ways to expand that, and we iterate over it, and we're like, hey, I can grant players equipment slots. Oh, hey, I can grant recipes via equipment now. So I can combine those two things, and we can now create a whole series of stuff to go farm. So there's going to be cool stuff out there, because maybe this particular recipe only comes from the Spider Queen or bears or whatever we want. Basically, it just gives us another loot vector for things to give you and interesting ways to do it. So in this case, we've added another tier of weapon, the arcane weaponry. Yes, and arcane weaponry, shockingly enough, has lower weapon weights than the advanced weapons. So this is not how all recipes are going to be granted. This is how special recipes are going to be granted. And it's not going to be just as simple as find one scroll and you have all of them. You're probably going to acquire a bunch of these, or you are going to buy them from the adventurers who are out there, and you're going to turn around and make this stuff for them.
Sell them right back.
Yep. So there is progress being made on even more cool loot stuff, which is always fun because it puts reasons to go out there and kill things, or maybe recipes can come from plants as a really rare drop, or harvesting if we want to as well, because they all use loot tables.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to equip the scroll to use it, and you can trade it to somebody. We had talked about putting in limited use ones. Maybe that's a thing, but the important thing is now there's 2 important things here. One is we can do it. 2, we're actually focusing on game systems that we want to improve, and you'll notice that I unequipped it, and the recipe is no longer in here. So again, it gives us a whole nother vector of loot and fun things to give you guys. Special risen. Yeah. Again, we can drop them in any number of ways. Where loot comes from is not as important as the fact that we can do it. So you need the discipline and scroll. Yeah, the discipline grants you the slot. So without the discipline, you don't have this slot. And you can also think of fun other ways that you can expand this into other disciplines and things like that. I dread the thought of having to swap scrolls. So you'll notice that the name of the recipe scroll was swords, because I'm going to give you a category of thing usually. That way you can craft. There's actually, I can put 10 recipes on there. It doesn't have to be just one. It's just the test one only has one on it right now because it is a prototype item, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on a prototype thing until we prove and we're like, yeah, that is great. Let's continue and let's make more of these things. More bag slots taken. Yeah, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it as I got a cool new recipe. I mean, yeah, we've recently started to deal with the pressures of not having enough inventory space and like shrinking stuff that was 1x2s down to 1x1s. And yes, it is way more interesting than Boras's. I will agree with you there. What about procs on weapons? Yes, I've prototyped procs on weapons, and those are a thing too. That may be another type of weapon. How can I craft a guild tag? You need an engineer for that. They will not be finished in 5.8. I just know from a UI perspective, they are not going to be finished. We have so much UI on the table. But more importantly, the engineering portion is being worked on the web, because I have seen that. Vampiric longswords, yep.
Why not?
You can do. We could certainly do life trade. How do you craft an engineer? If I could craft engineers, you have no idea how many I would craft. I would spend all day and night crafting engineers. Yes. Engineer thrall. If only it were that easy. If only it were that easy. Okay. I do have some of the majors mapped out. I'm not ready to show them yet because I don't think they're. They just have some junk stats on them. I made them to make the items, but they're not. They're not where I want them to be to show them yet. Would you put mass production? I would make them in a factory. It'd be like which Terminator was it where they were coming down the assembly line and they were
Probably
just
3,
stamping
right?
out like Arnold Schwarzenegger's basically.
Yeah.
It could have been the first two because they didn't have the
Probably,
CGI. Right.
Yeah, it's probably 3.
Yeah. Critical failure.
Yeah.
Yes. Can Sickle Druid get their healing orb spawned by them instead of a big distance away? I think we did that on purpose to make it a little more interesting. So, because at that, if it's spawned right next to you, it might as well just be a proc that self heals you.
And in fact, those haven't changed, so I'm going to say that that's probably more the projectile bugs than anything else.
Any upcoming world map tweaks? I know there is an engineer working on maps right now because I was in a meeting about a week and a half ago that had to deal with maps. Any chance you could tweak sickle orbs to be yellow rather than green? There is certainly a chance that we can do that because that is an effects thing. And I know Greg loves to have more effects work because he was just complaining about the bear with 20 powers. It's like, does the bear need 20 powers?
The bear needs 20 powers.
I'm like, okay, it's not a bear. You're actually getting...
You're getting 8 bears.
8 bears?
Well, I mean, 4 bears with night and day versions that have, you know, variant powers for night and day.
Yeah, we generally make them in multiple batches. That way we can use them over the world, and you don't just get a bear out of it because that would be kind of wasteful. Do I have to... Yes. Yeah, I was having a lot of fun making the the recipes and stuff for and the scroll slot for this. That's the fun part that we're at, is like is making and iterating over the content to make some fun new stuff for you guys. And crafters really haven't had their second pass or their 1.5 pass, even in that stuff that we're all working on right now. Is there going to be anything added to alchemy? Yes, we constantly make new potions. In fact, the potion of Safu, which is the increase to your point caps, is definitely a new potion. As we find needs for new potions, we just make them, because the alchemists will just... Crafters got to craft. They're going to make a lot of potions. So as long as they're useful and not just a bunch of placeholder potions, I don't like to make those. And then we also don't... We're trying to avoid putting in a pure healing potion.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to create potion wars in combat, because that's no bueno. But there is out of combat healing potions, but there's just no, hey, I'm going to chug this and get 33% of my life back.
Right.
Kind of deal.
Diablo.
Yes.
Diablo just chug.
Now you can
chug
build.
by the
You can.
leader.
Yeah, you can build a combat system around that. If you remember, what was the third-person action RPG that was built here in town? Dungeon Runners?
Oh, maybe.
Was it Dungeon Runners? Where basically the game was spamming potions.
Yeah.
And you could literally just stack them, but they were heal over times. So you could just drink 10 by spamming the spacebar. You just go whoop. Yes. You guys may have not played that game. If the enemy moves, then there's no way to detonate all of them. When might we see Thrall and disc crafting? I'm hoping that is a thing in the not-so-distant future. I've seen some pretty interesting detonations going off with orbs now that people can't see them, to see that they need to move until it actually comes. I saw a really good one where somebody had probably 10 orbs stacked underneath a centaur cleric, and he went to detonate them, and the cleric just instantly invulned. So it was great. He didn't dodge out, he invulned, but I was like, hey, he's paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. Excuse me. Cap item razors are not useful. Are you talking about the necromancy stuff? Well, they will be useful in the future. So that's... I don't want to keep just dumping attack power and crit chance on you guys. The cap stuff will become interesting once you guys can hit those caps. So... yeah, not so distant future definitely means not 5.8. Because 5.8's already underway. We've already basically subscribed to the stuff that we're going to do. But it's not such that I can say it's so far out I can't even see it. That's what I mean by not so distant future. Chests. Yes, chests are a good spot where you could also put scrolls. Sickle Druid isn't worth the squeeze. Sickle Druid was very worth it at one point. I wonder if something... Oh! That's right. You can't go into the healing tray anymore when you're a Sickle Druid.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was that thing had been going on for months apparently. The tray wasn't being properly taken away from them, and it still isn't. However, I put a band-aid in there where even if you have it, you can't go into that tray if you have the discipline Sickle Druid. So basically they don't get the heals because they just used to just go back to their healing tray and heal. Right, so... do you have plans to bring back set bonuses or proc causing weapons, armor, and chance?
Definitely on the proc weapons. I mean, that's sort of, kind of the idea behind the
tower guards. The tower guards, we fixed them so that they weren't shooting out to 100 meters.
Right. Now I think the range, they put them at really short.
So
I mean, ultimately, we're still working on NPCs, right?
Yeah.
We need NPCs to, understand that they're on your team, for example. They need to, basically choose their targets a little more wisely and things like that. So,
yeah,
I mean,
I'm not so keen on them being turrets either.
Yeah. I mean,
because if they're turrets, you can do things like stack orbs and they can't get out of it.
You can just run out of line of sight, back and
Right.
forth. And
So
then they
eventually
don't
they're
have
not
shooty
going
stuff,
to be
so-
turrets. They're turrets because if we make them turrets, they generally work.
Yeah.
And we don't have to deal with...
Like, at least you can't train them away and leave them on a rock for now.
Right.
You know, I mean...
Right, because then the strategy is train them away and somebody else goes up there
Yeah.
to cap the tower. And then... Yeah, right. I mean, there's...
At least you have to deal with them at the most fundamental level if you want to capture. So,
Correct.
I mean,
So if you're trying to capture it, they should be something you have to kill. We can't hit those caps till months. Yeah, I mean, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't put them in there because you're not going to hit the cap for a couple months. I mean, that's we're trying to get away from building a lot of placeholder stuff and actually building stuff and putting it in as we want it to ship. Which is why I pulled all of the regen stats off of those additives and made them just attribute caps. I mean, eventually you will be using the epic and legendary vessels, and those vessels get more points every time you level up attribute points versus the standard ones, which only get 3 at every level up. Those ones get 4. So you guys will be able to get to some of those caps. So you will be like, hey, I want those things. We'll be fine once healing orbs work. Yeah, and that may hurt a lot as any class that relies on orb mechanics, and if the orbs are broken, then that's no bueno. What's what time are we looking at, Gibbs? I don't have
11:55.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Yes, a chest is a great spot to put a scroll. If I had one in the EK, time frame on getting chests for the EK. That is a good question. I don't know. Okay. We'll take that feedback from Tennis. Sickle Druid would feel much better if the orbs worked and they had more powerful yellow orbs via Stormcaller. Though it is possible to use sickle powers without a sickle at the moment. Oh. The problem with Sickle Druids is that the orb spawn sucks is broken, and they're not a ranger. So ranger sounds to be what everyone is kind of. Are we ranger fall now?
Is it ranger? It's ranger. It's
Ranger
week.
Ranger week. Flavor of the month. Why does Cleric have no mana issues whatsoever while having no targeted heals and plenty of offensive damage?
Plenty of offensive damage.
And they have no mana issues. Interesting. These all sound like things that we're going to be constantly tweaking as we get closer and closer. When can we expect to see a faction world, campaign world? Well, first we're going to get a meaningful win condition in 5.8. Then we can start talking about other rule sets. Champion fall. Champion is...
Sure.
Well, but he's not ranged.
Right. Well, you got hurl bats. Bug people with hurl bats.
Oh, ranger and champs are overtuned. It's entirely too easy to hit with the ranger shots. Yep, it still is, and we haven't started tweaking those things. There's been so much stuff, other things to build.
Right. And I mean, again, we're not trying to be a first-person shooter.
Right. We're never going to have a
trying to,
pinpoint
like,
rate.
just, zero in on headshots or whatever. We want it to be,
You want to be able to hit somebody at 50 yards and not constantly miss because your raycast doesn't agree with the server. That is far worse than being far too generous. Never being able to hit is just a terrible problem. Why isn't this game perfectly balanced during the pre-alpha? It is totally unacceptable, and my expectations for balanced PvP experience are entirely reasonable. Thank you, Scree. Anti-Fesser fall. Okay. Okay. All right, there's one last good question because we're probably at time now, Gibbs.
Yeah, pretty close. Although you could probably go 5 minutes over if you wanted
50-yard shot to the Fessor, 25 with same damage. Yeah, again, I'm still trying to keep... the vision for the Fessor was that guy that zips in and burns the crap out of you and zips out. He's not a sniper. So the Ranger has inherited a lot of the Stalker, because you remember we killed the Stalker, and the Stalker was always supposed to be our sniper. It's probably that our snipers just deal too much damage for how far they can hit. I mean, that's probably the underlying issue there is, okay, if they can hit so far out, but they just can't do full damage at that distance. That's probably the underlying issue.
Yeah, well, we can have a long discussion on it, but I mean, there's several reasons that the Ranger is good, right? Because you have basically just out of the box, you have twice as many abilities, just from that alone, right? Just having a second trait, right? You can say the same thing with Druid, and what do we find? Druids and Rangers are extremely popular, right? So I mean, that just that alone is a thing, but it's also more complicated to play, and you got to do trait swapping, whatever. So, like I said, we're not done balancing or even making this game.
But we appreciate all the feedback that you're giving us, because it is allowing us to fix bugs way early instead of when you go live. And yes, I've played. So when 5.7 came out, we were all playing that week significantly. Generally, though, we're playing ahead because we're playing 5.8 stuff, and we're crafting in our test area, which is similar to what we've given you guys on test. You can just make whatever you want. So that's generally where we're crafting. Now in 5.7, it is far easier because the vendors we put in there to get whites, which we've heard a lot of feedback on, because things like the tool market got knocked down because everyone can make tools with just or you can just go buy. You can farm now and then go buy the resources with gold. Give the Templar a boomerang throw with his greatsword. The Templar is designed for holding territory, right? He's designed for field control and holding things like flags. And unfortunately, a lot of that is diminished because a lot of the fighting that everybody does is in forests.
Yeah, they're just out and you run across two teams, run across each other and fight in the middle of the forest, rather than like you got a Templar guarding, basically guarding the fort, guarding the top of the tower or whatever. That's a big deal.
Yes.
Right?
So, and hopefully we can get his right click not sticking. I see that when I demoed here, the shield slam wasn't sticking, so I'm hoping whatever fixed that fixed the right click on the Templar sticking as well. But again, the Templar and the Knight are all about holding a position, right? And unfortunately, we haven't been sieging in a long time. So hopefully, as part of 5.8, when we touch up all the siege rules, we're also touching up all of the stuff that made siege work, such that we have people actually defending areas rather than fighting in open fields and forests. When will Druid balls be fixed inside of buildings? That one's bounced back and forth. So, Fessor's also missing the blow you up part, especially if the Templars on the opposing team. Well, Templars were designed because there is the whole lore behind the Templars and Confessors being part of the Church of Arcan. And in fact, they have mechanics that work with as well as against each other, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, Templars are proven to be powerful in point defense. It's just, again, a lot of the fighting in Crowfall happens in the wide open spaces. And it's not about keeping this one thing.
Yeah. Not everybody's good in every situation.
Yep. Okay.
Druid balls. I like saying Druid balls too.
When we test, we either
balls.
make the item or sometimes we play up to it. I tend to play the intro experience a lot just to make sure that it doesn't feel terrible. We have no blow up anymore, Templar or not. We will see about that. What Durinthal said. I didn't see what he said. Have you fixed the 50% pip risk equals 50% increased benefit thing for crafting experiments. I don't have the new crafting experimentation screen in yet. That is hopefully going to happen in 5.8. I'm really hoping. But at least we'll get it in so that the idea is that the crafter can set the risk level to whatever they feel is acceptable risk. And going higher risk has higher pip benefits, or each pip is worth more percent the more you risk, but the choice is yours. It's basically a selector from no additional risk all the way up to are you insane.
Please do write. It doesn't need to be strongly worded, but please do let us know about all the confessor issues and everything you want, on the forums, please.
Okay.
We will read and take them.
So I think we're out of time for this guy. I hope you enjoyed seeing all of the new stuff. Please make comments, things you'd like to see, places you'd like it to come from. The crafting disciplines are underway, as you can see with our first one that I'm willing to show at the moment, which is the leather scroll case. There are some other ones that have been built, and they are equally as amusing, but I'm not going to show them this week. So, thanks everyone for showing up. We will see you. Actually, there is a live stream from Germany this Thursday. They're going to be streaming from the floor of Gamescom. So go ahead and tune in on. Is it morning on Thursday, same time?
I don't think I have any information on that.
Same crow time,
same crow channel. Pan can tell you, and I'm sure she's going to do social media. Hope you guys show up to see what's going on from the floor of Germany. With all of, I'm sure...
The Wiener Schnitzel and the Lederhosen.
They are just drinking very large beers.
Just huge beers. And
playing
sausages
Crowfall.
and playing Crowfall.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I was waiting for Val.
All right, Val's probably not even... She's not paying attention then. Okay, there you go. She said, yeah, we'll make an announcement. Okay,
Yeah.
so there is going to be a live stream on Thursday. Make sure you guys show up for it. And we will see you then. The next one will be the Q&A at the beginning of next month. And see you in 5.7.
All right.
All right?
See y'all.
Have a good day.